morning, all. Thank you, Michael, for that beautiful music. We're having some technical difficulties this morning, so thank you for bearing with us. Our Facebook live stream is not working today, so I'm going to be attempting to record and then post this online later. But welcome all on this Sunday morning to this online worship service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Charleston, West Virginia. Welcome to all the beloved folk of this congregation, to any visitors or new folk, and particularly, let me spotlight my video there. There we go. And particularly to the two other Unitarian Universalist congregations who are joining us on this call. Hello, I see y'all are already saying hello in the chat. So to those, especially my folk, I know we're a little newer to chat. If you look on the bottom, you see images priced up. If you click on those, it'll take you to chat. So during the service, there will be times we will be using that. So welcome all. I am the Reverend Caitlin Cotter Coillberg. I am minister of this congregation, and I am joined for the service today by Pastor Elizabeth Mount, who's a good friend and colleague of mine, currently quarantining actually with me here in West Virginia. So we're in the same room actually. Hi, Elizabeth. And they serve our congregation in Indiana, Pennsylvania. And then I am joined by our worship associate, Carol, by our intrepid music director, Hannah, and we have a special musician with us today. You just heard him playing. That was Michael Tank, and Michael is currently in Southern California. So we're at least 3 states on this call right now, which is pretty darn cool. So welcome, we are so glad that you are here. Please note that you are invited to stay on the call after the service for a virtual coffee hour. So this virtual coffee hour will be starting at the end of the service, and I know Pastor Elizabeth already has plans to pull Indiana folks into your own chat room, and then we will probably divide into other small chats so that we can really talk to each other. So please note that for now we have restarted. We Charleston folk, our tradition of Tuesday lunch with the ministers at noon on Tuesdays on Zoom. Now it's a virtual lunch with the minister. So grab your cup of coffee and your bagel, if you're starting the day out late, or a sandwich or whatever. Join me at noon on Zoom for virtual lunch with the minister. And another announcement for West Virginia folks from Neil. Neil, can you spotlight your video and unmute yourself?
Hello, folks. I'll be putting on, starting today and for the next 7 weeks on Sunday at 1:30 p.m. we have we'll have a class, You and UU, which is welcome for all new members and existing members to learn a little bit more about each other and about UU tenets. Thank you.
As we head into worship, today, I invite you in and I offer you these words, which were adapted by Pastor Elizabeth from A Call to Worship by Reverend Lori Gorgas-Oben. Lori writes, "In the grass and dirt and ground cover, in the leaves, seeds, and blossoms that fall from the trees all year long, in the tall ash trees reaching for the heavens, and the hemlock and the hickory stretching up and out and down and twisting this way and that, in the soft breeze that brings the scent of new blossoms or the sharp scent of ramps to tickle our noses and whips pollen and hawks above, in the woodpeckers hammering at the standing trees, the snakes lurking beneath the deadfalls, the scampering small critters of varied shapes and sizes, and the maddening horde of stinging, biting, annoying insects. And the rivers winding through the land, down holler and glen, joining together in their winding way to the lowlands. springs dripping, pools forming and overflowing as they mark the passage of time. In these verdant hills and hollers, home to people and cultures long before the Europeans found their way here, long before people were kidnapped from Africa to be brought here. These ancient mountains that have grown and shrunk, uplifted, worn, and endured as the roots beneath the vastness of the sky, planted and grown on our earth home. What of these would we not name as holy? This planet, our home, earth, water, fire, and air, holds us as a loving planet, cradles a newborn, sustains us in ways that we cannot do for ourselves, inspires us to pay attention, to witness its great and terrible beauty, and to know ourselves to be connected to it all. And in the words of Amy Boyden Freeman, once more the earth has turned towards the light of the sun. As we are bathed in the light of a new day, so may we greet the dawning of fresh possibility. Once more we awaken from our slumber. As our bodies rise to meet the challenges and pleasures of living, so may our hearts and minds open with promise. Once more we gather for worship. As we join our voices in word and song, so may this assembly bring forth wholeness. Come, let us worship. And so now this is where we would usually turn and greet each other in our space. And I offer you instead this opportunity to write in the chat box. See, I told you we'd be using that chat box. So over in the chat box, I invite you to type some words of blessing or love for each other, to type in there what you wish for each other. So what do you wish for each other today? Type in that chat box. Peace and safety for all, peace to each of us, peace, joy, and love. Yes. Fresh air to all. Yes, Neil, fresh air to stay well. Ooh, that's really on our hearts, isn't it? This wish for each other to be well. To enjoy the sunshine today. Yes, it's sunny up in Pennsylvania too. Awesome. I can see that it's also sunny in California, Michael, which is not shocking. Stay sane. Keep calm and you. I like that, Drew. Nice. Keep calm and you. And happy Earth Day to everyone. Yes. Yes, Carlise. We've got to care for the earth. To feel the lovely sun on our faces, to be calm and peaceful. Peace to all. Beautiful. Beautiful. And now at this time, Carol, would you please read our chalice lighting words while I light the chalice? So Carol, could you read those words for us now? Where's Carol? Can someone unmute Carol, please?
Can you hear me?
There. Now would you please read them? Thank you.
Okay. Let us light this candle today with hope that our time of trouble ends safely and soon, that our community be strengthened by our inability to gather together, that this disaster brings about new and better ways of being, that this day celebrating the beauty of our blue boat home be the beginning of a worldwide new way of looking at our care of the earth as it cares for us. Hope.
Beautiful. Thank you, Carol. All right, and Pastor Elizabeth, could you pull up our slideshow once more? Right on that first slide. So often I say, I don't know that it happened this way, but I do know that it's true. However, today is one of those stories that I do know happened this way because I got it from reputable news sources. So that's always exciting. So once upon a time, in an era known now as the 1960s, and a place known as New York, there lived a man who loved music and justice and a river. You may have heard of this man. He was called Pete Seeger. you heard of him? You can nod if you have, because I can see you. Aha. Yes, I'm seeing nods. You've all heard of Pete Seeger, right? Many people still sing his songs all over the world. He advocated for many things and was, in the end, one of the most influential people of the 20th century. The river he loved is called the Hudson. And by 1966, it was horribly polluted, full of toxic chemicals and oil pollution and even raw sewage. Ew! Pete Seeger decided he was going to build a boat to save the river. And so he did. In fact, he built this ship. Ah! The Clearwater. This is the Clearwater, which still sails today. It's a special kind of boat called a sloop, which was a replica of boats that sailed up and down the Hudson 200 to 100 years ago. Now, Robert Kennedy Jr., an environmental lawyer who worked with Pete Seeger, has said that Pete Seeger's genius was in recognizing that the salvation of the river could come from grassroots activism. Kennedy said he didn't go to Albany and lobby. He didn't go to Washington. He didn't go to court. He used his guitar and his voice and his joyful manner to summon people. And the strategy that he had turned on reminding people of the Hudson's history as a major waterway and an important fishery. Can you spotlight my video, Elizabeth? Awesome. He wrote songs about the river, right? So he walked around and he talked to people and he worked on persuading them, and then he wrote songs about them from his boat and about his boat. I'm going to spotlight me there instead of the camera that was moving around. Can we do that again? Hi. And the thing that's remarkable for me about this story about Pete Seeger, that he didn't lobby and he didn't go to court. Instead, what he did was sang songs and walked up and down the river talking to people, and he built a boat and sailed it on the river. The remarkable thing is that his strategy worked. That this is a story of success. And partly that's because he was one of the most influential people of the 20th century, right? But partly it's because creativity and courage and sharing what we love matters and makes a difference. That if we start by sitting by the river, talking to each other, and move from there, we can make great things happen. So public pressure led to the banning of various poisons and to 200 miles of that glorious Hudson River being declared a cleanup site. And Kennedy words, I love this. Pete saw the Hudson as an emblem of some of the failures of our democracy because it was taken over by large corporations who were using it as a conveyor for disposal, which is a nice way of saying they were using it as a garbage dump. But he always pointed out that the Constitution of New York State said that the Hudson was owned by the people of New York State. He used to say, the Hudson River belongs to all of us. This planet belongs to all of us. And just as the sloop Clearwater still sails up and down the Hudson River, teaching and inspiring thousands, we are all sailing on our planet home. So please join me in singing Hymn of the Day, Blue Boat Home, accompanied by Michael Tank and vocals led by Hannah. So we're just pulling that up for you now. And the sound doesn't seem to be working. That's not good. One moment, please. Bear with us. Nope. Just 1 second, y'all. We're trying a new thing. I'm trying to do only one new thing a week, but I find I end up doing 5 new things a week. Is anyone else finding that? You're trying to do all these new things, and sometimes it's just very frustrating. So when you hit screen share, Elizabeth, there we go. Yes, but now the slideshow's not working. Here we go. Now all the things. So Hannah, can you lead us a cappella through the rest of the song? Because we're having some technical difficulties. So we're gonna try one more time. Okay. So like I said, we're having some technical difficulties and we're gonna try again with that later. So Hannah, if you are still on the call, I'm gonna ask you the second time we sing the hymn in this service, just to lead us a cappella, because we have not quite figured out how to make the slide and the sound go together. We are trying new things and failing forward. It's an experiment, we fail forward. So at this time, Elizabeth, do you have a reflection to offer us?
I do. Thank you. Can you turn your mic off? There we go. One voice, one mic. We're being very, very you about this. So sometimes you're on the boat. Sometimes you have to stop a boat. So today I'm going to tell you a story connected to a boat called the Fennica. And the Fennica was a ship that tried to sail into the Arctic Circle a few years ago, helping to drill a hole in the ocean floor for oil exploration. And as you may know, oil leaks in ocean settings are incredibly hard to stop. If they get started, they can do immense damage to animal populations and to the people who live in community with those animals, especially in a place like the Arctic where there is no alternative food source. So knowing the potential for harm, I and many friends with me decided that we needed to make sure that that ship, the Fennica, did not make it out of its dock in Portland up to the Arctic. So on a cool summer night, I went out as part of a team creating a bridge blockade. We were lowering ourselves down from a 250-foot high bridge in the darkness, 100 feet apart, all along the span of the St. John's Bridge. I had an intellectual understanding of the importance of this work, the connections to my ethics and to my faith, but I didn't feel it in my heart until the moment I began to go over that edge, feeling that fear of being suspended, that feeling of being all alone out in space. And I fought that feeling. It was overwhelming vastness. and being so far from any other person. As I started, I went down and down and down, focusing all of my energy internally on myself, my ropes, the hammock and bags, just getting everything self-contained. A little like I imagine and have felt the beginning of this quarantine. It's that isolated understanding, trying to build safety in your immediate space. But then I settled, as some of us are beginning to settle into a new reality. And when I looked around, what I saw above was a starry sky. But below, what caught the breath in my throat was that all on the water, there was a plethora of volunteers out in small craft, tiny kayaks, canoes, paddle boards, each with a pinpoint of light from their headlamps pointed upward, a moving, flowing community of stars on the water, glowing in the darkness for the love of the planet and for their greater community built in trust. They hadn't been warned the time that we would be coming, just told that it was important to be there. So in faith, they came and they gathered, just as we gather in Unitarian Universalist communities, never knowing when it will be the moment that changes a life or the world. Trusting that if we are faithful, we'll be there when needed. Floating in the universe, nestled in a boat, or suspended on the threads of interconnected community, we are always part of something greater. The Fenneca's path was blocked by those of us in the bridge blockade for about 60 hours, not quite 3 days. But in just 3 days of being contained on that rope, yet connected to something bigger, the world changed. Laws were rewritten. Choices and priorities responded to global pressure. The drilling plans were scrapped completely. They've never started again. And why? The world changed because people were touched without touching, moved by the idea that places and people are worth caring for. People's hearts were opened to those they could not see, but understood as impacted by that greater web. So here we are once again on a shared blue boat floating through the universe, separated by quarantine, yet held together in shared care for our communities, for all the people we cannot see whose lives are depending on the ways we choose to come together and the faith that our actions can change the world. So hold on and remember to look around you, for something is shifting. I'm going to ask you now to take a moment to ponder where the shifts are in your life. Are there things right now that you are resisting that make you fearful or angry or sad or scared? You can share those in the chat bar, for we are all connected. We are all less burdened when we can share what is ours.
So please, at this time, write in the chat box what is making you angry or sad or hurting your heart today. If you would, just a few words, and we're going to sit in silence with this candle flame in front of us as we sit with our hearts for a moment, and then we'll move into a time of prayer and meditation. That was really beautiful. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Did you do that extemporaneous?
No, it's real.
Can you get
I'm
it to
like,
me so
I
that
am not that magical, but I will send it to you, yes.
And at this time, I invite you to join with me in the spirit of prayer or meditation, to perhaps settle your hands in your lap or your feet on the floor or the coffee table in front of you, whatever is going to make you more comfortable and get you into that space right now. I offer you this prayer for Earth Day. Spirit of life and love, be with us as we mark this Earth Day Sunday, as we pause together in appreciation for our beautiful planet, our blue boat home. Help us to rest in wonder and find here together as we are apart, all of us sometimes feeling like we're dangling over an edge, a moment of shared solitude, of hanging in there together. In this moment, a respite from loneliness and overwhelm, a reminder of the beauty rising with the turning of our seasons. We give thanks today for the food that grows from dark, rich soil. May those who grow it and bring it to our towns be safe and be paid and treated fairly. May all people have enough to eat. We give thanks for the splendor and shade of trees and forests. May they be protected from profit-driven nonsense. May those who love them be safe and well and find in those forests and trees moments of calm, quiet. We give thanks for the flying ones, the crawling ones, the furry ones, all of the beautiful creatures of the world. May they be safe from poison and pollution. May their songs and calls reach us even when we feel most isolated, reminding us of the glory of sky and branch and new life. We give thanks for streams and squirrels and caterpillars, for dogs and cats and guinea pigs and garden flowers, for all the tangible pieces of our lives reminding us that we are a part of a vast interconnected web. We are isolating from a virus, but we are never separate from the web of life, from the ecosystem that is our lovely blue-green earth. We breathe together in our separation, sending love to each other through phone calls and messages, holding each other's grief and hope and longings. Together, apart, we join together in quiet reflection and gentle, purposeful love. So friends, I'm going to light once again our COVID-19 candle. We light this candle to recognize deaths due to COVID-19 and the particular pain of grieving and isolation, as well as all of those on the front lines, healthcare workers, grocery store workers, janitors, and others, people who may or may not have chosen to put their lives at risk. And I invite you to join me by raising your hands in blessing as I light this candle and say these words as I attempt to light this candle. Sometimes technical difficulties take just a moment, even when our prayerful space. Sit there, please, with me. We light this candle in honor of those working on the front lines, in hospitals, nursing homes, grocery stores, and gas stations. We light this candle to send our love to those dying in isolation, especially those who we know and those who are loved by those we know. We light this candle to send our love to all those grieving alone, We light this candle in recognition of the enormity of this pandemic's impact on each of us, on those we love, on everyone. And even more so, those already challenged by poverty, racism, transphobia, ableism, mental illness and disability, xenophobia, so many things that make so many of us vulnerable. We light this candle in grief and honor and recognition in love. We are in this together. Dear ones, I invite you to lower your hands once again as we all move into this time of meditation, holding in our hearts relationships that we wish were stronger, our longing to be in our beloved buildings, our pain about unfair housing, fearful feelings of fear of the unknown, sadness when our siblings pull our hair, uncertainty in so many forms, the needs that are so apparent in this time. All of these things and so much more we hold in our hearts, we hold for each other. And please join me now in a time of meditation. Feel free to rest your eyes on the chalice flame or to close your eyes as you listen to Pastor Elizabeth once more.
And just take a breath smoothly as I offer you the words of this meditation by Susan Ensweiler. Imagine yourself on a wide flowing river in a small boat. You are one little speck of being in a wide expanse of water bordered by rocky cliffs, towering trees, and bright, bright blue skies. Ahead of you are boulders and whitewater rapids, but also calm pools and sandbars for picnics. Around you are other little specks of being, each one a person, isolated in their own small boat, just like you. But together, all of you form a flotilla, and you will journey down the river together, guiding each other around the boulders, rescuing each other out of the white water, enjoying the calm of the still pools and picnics on the sandbars. May your journey through life be the same, surrounded by friends and loved ones who will sustain you through the hard times, rejoice with you in the good times until you reach the shore. Blessed be. And please join now in our meditative hymn, a meditation on breathing. I got it. Take a moment to just breathe while we pull that up. And we'll begin. Did you move it or did I?
Don't know.
Let's try this one more time.
Such a beautiful purple. Only working for you.
That's super weird. Have computer sound shared. And I have that. Well,
Well, let's try it on mine.
Yeah.
Okay. So. first
All
one.
right.
Nope.
All right. If you want to begin a couple of breaths in and out, some of you may know this song, and we'll be there with it in just a moment. Breathing in, breathing out.
For some reason on this Zoom call,
Thank you for breathing with us. And now Carol Sroczynski will introduce our offering.
Elena Westbrook writes. Can you hear me?
Carol, you're ready to go when you're ready to introduce that.
I'm ready. Can you hear me? Hello? Unmute me or mute me or whatever it takes.
She's unmuted.
Hello?
Are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Hello? I haven't done anything.
I have her words. I'll just read them.
Hello?
Yes, now we can hear you. Lovely.
Elena Westbrook writes, far too often we are forced to confront the terrible things that happen. When these things happen, all we can do is come together to remind ourselves that there is still hope, there is still love, there are still good-hearted people who can look unblinking into the storm and continue to believe a calm, bright morning will come. This community is a refuge where we can keep the ember of hope alive when all the world seems intent on dousing it. And then we can use our little ember to light a beacon for the rest of the world. Our offering each week sustains this community so we can share our small embers to light a dark world. We know that we are falling short with our budget because we are not meeting each week in our sanctuary and are unable to present our usual fundraisers. So please give generously so that we can all together help spread that light. Please make your donation with a check in the mail or through our website, uucharlestonwv.org.
All right, thank you, Carol. This is it's such a joy to join everybody and offer song with y'all. This is just a little heart song from one of my communities that we share songs with. It may be new to y'all, but it's very simple. So if you catch the words, just sing along on mute at home, and we can all sing this together while we make the offering. So. Flow, river, flow. I don't know where you go, but I'm jumping in and I trust you carry me. Flow, river, flow. I don't know where you go, but I'm jumping in and I trust you carry me. Carry me home, won't you carry me home? Carry me home, carry me home. Flow, river, flow. I don't know where you go, but I'm jumping in and I'll trust you'll carry me. Flow, river, flow. I don't know where you go, but I'm jumping in and I'll trust you'll carry me. Carry me home, carry me home. Carry me home, carry me home. Flow, river, flow. I don't know where you go, but I'm jumping in and I'll trust you'll carry me. Flow, river, flow. I don't know where you go, but I'm jumping in and I trust you'll carry me. Carry me home, carry me home. Carry me home, carry me home.
Fishing buckets.
And now, Carol, if you could lead us in our Unison affirmation. We'll have you all stay muted, but you can speak aloud with Carol.
Love is the spirit of our faith, and service is its law. This is our great covenant to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
So beloveds, bear with me just a minute. This is my first time ever preaching from a Kindle that I was recently gifted, and I'm learning. So I have been thinking a lot about boats lately. Now, partly I've been thinking about boats because I've effectively been quarantined for 3 months now. 3 months, actually pretty much exactly, because today is my baby's 3-month birthday. Woo! And quarantine, this thing of being in quarantine was originally a boating experience. The CDC says on their website, the Center for Disease Control, the practice of quarantine as we know it began during the 14th century in an effort to protect coastal cities from plague epidemics. Ships arriving in Venice from infected ports were required to sit at anchor for 40 days before landing. This practice, now called quarantine, was derived from the Italian words, and I've never studied Italian, but I believe it's quarantina giorni, which meant 40 days. Very literal. So I've been thinking about this because it feels sometimes right now like we are all stuck in our individual boats in this vast harbor just in sight of the shore and not able to land. And I have to admit that even with the discomfort and the inherent inequality in that image, because in some ways getting to quarantine has become a privilege, right? That not everyone is getting to do. There is a quiet calm to the image of all of us in our little boats in the harbor right by the shoreline, like in that meditation Pastor Elizabeth led us in earlier. And there is just something about boats, right? When I was a kid, growing up in southern Appalachian Mountains, completely surrounded, as I am again now in a valley of the Appalachian Mountains, I dreamed of the ocean and of sailing. I read every book I could get my hands on about sailboats, pretended the hammock that my sister and I sometimes set up in the yard was a boat getting tossed around in the ocean waves, tried to teach myself sailor's knots and semaphore. I took classes on marine biology, collected model sailing ships, put up a postcard of the reproduction of a historic ship that one summer that sailed up the Tennessee River, and a small poster of the Coast Guard cutter, the Eagle, that I got from a tour of a Coast Guard station when I was like 14. I'm not sure where this sailing obsession came from, since the biggest boat anyone in my family spent time on was a small houseboat on a lake owned by my aunt's ex-husband. But there you go. I spent a good chunk of my childhood daydreaming of boats and the boating life. And then in college, I finally got to go to sea. Not in a tiny motorboat, but in a 120-foot steel-hulled hermaphrodite brig called the Corwith Kramer. A tall ship with big, billowing sails and a real ship's wheel and compass and everything. And this experience I had longed for most of my young life. It was one of the most miserable experiences I've ever had. I was seasick the entire time and longed with all my soul for the mountains. It was a particularly bumpy voyage, to be fair. My classmates and I joked afterwards that our motto was to seek the leeward rail, because when you puke in the ocean, you want to puke on the rail so the wind is blowing away from you so that your puke blows away from you and not back in your face. Gross, right? We're seeking the leeward rail. I don't know if you can see Pastor Elizabeth's face, but they are with me and that's gross. Now I want to be clear, this was also like a profoundly moving and transformative experience. But I am definitely mostly a dry land sailor. I loved the rest of that semester I got to have, where we learned about the ocean while living in a maritime museum on firm, dry land, much more. And this is one of the things I love about the hymn Blue Boat Home, which we're hopefully going to sing together in a little bit. I love the metaphors, the lyrics of that song, because so many of us are dry land sailors. Even those of us who have been to sea, even those who have been on the ocean, can find meanings in particularly that one line, the though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor nor port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I sail upon, and the earth is my blue boat home. Ah, it just gets me, because I'm also a space science geek, which I'm going to be talking about next week. And I just love it because we can't feel the motion of the earth, but we know that we're always moving. Science tells us that. And as Unitarian Universalists, we trust and listen to science. The earth is our blue boat home, a beautiful, fragile orb traveling through the wide, cold waters of the universe. Lovely, lovely. I feel like this metaphor of the blue boat home reminds us of our interdependence, that we are all ultimately in the same boat. On the Maritime Studies program that took me to sea all those years ago, called William's Mystic, this phrase was something we talked about a lot. The idea that we're all in the same boat. And partly that's because those who study the history, the politics, the literature and ecology and geology and flow of the ocean have a particular appreciation and understanding of interconnection, right? Because all waters flow to the sea and all the ocean waters kind of end up flowing together. And because if you look at the history of things, like boats have always connected our civilizations, cultures, our economies. We've always, in some ways, been a global experience, and the ocean is a part of that. And we talked about it a lot, because when you are actually with a group, literally all in the same boat together, it puts a new meaning on that truism. You have to literally pull together, right, to raise and lower the sails and the anchor. And you feel in this new, more literal way how much your fragile lives are ultimately bound on the same journey. Going to sea made me newly aware of those around me and how my actions impact others. I still have the habit, for example, of turning off the light in the bathroom before I open the door to exit. Because on the Core with Kramer, if you open the door to the head, that's the nautical word for a restroom for gross historical reasons that I'm not going to go into right now. If you open the door to the head with the light still on, it would shine right into the bunk opposite and potentially wake up the person there who was trying to get a nap in before they went on watch again. I was at sea for 10 days, 14 years ago, and I still have that habit of turning off the light before I open the bathroom door. I still have that awareness of the people around me, which is, I have to say, coming in handy now that I'm stuck in the same house with only a few people all the time, right? Right? Kind of makes me think about an article I just saw this morning about all these lessons people who've been imprisoned have been sharing about what it's like to be stuck in that way. And learning about maritime history made me appreciate that being interdependent, being all in the same boat, doesn't necessarily mean we are treated equally, equitably, or fairly. Sailors, for one, faced horrific working conditions and crap wages for much of maritime history. Captains had ultimate authority on their ships and could be as brutal as they liked with basically no repercussions. And then, for example, we have totally romanticized the tragedy of the Titanic and tend to focus on how pretty the clothes were and to just slide past the part of the story that involved the lower class passengers being trapped below, right? They shut the gates and locked people down there. They were not allowed to make their escape. I know I have to turn away when we get to that part in the movie because it hurts so much. Even though I know those are actors and they're perfectly safe, I'm thinking about the historic people I couldn't save, and it hurts. It hurts my heart because drowning hurts everybody, but some were protected from it by money and status, and others were locked away from that potential safety. Kind of sounds like what's happening right now, doesn't it? all those refugee folks of all ages locked in our concentration camps without even soap to help protect them, and with documented cases of COVID-19 already among them. And then, of course, if we talk about the history of boating and sailing and how that connects our world, we can't ignore the history of the slave trade, that American ships for hundreds of years were transporting enslaved human beings as cargo. Inequality and cruelty at sea is something people have been working against for a long time. Now in college, and this other history class I took, I learned that the Caribbean piracy of the early modern period, you know, that the pirates that got romanticized by Hollywood in Errol Flynn and Orlando Bloom movies, was in many ways a labor strike, right? So that, wild. This was a labor strike. Sailors were deciding that the punishments they would face for mutiny and then piracy were worth the risk, were a better thing to be dealing with in their lives than the horrors of everyday life as a sailor. That's how bad their working conditions were. These early modern pirate ships also, I love this, they were some of the first true democracies where emancipated sailors made sure that everybody had a vote. Maybe not like when they were actually doing the thing that I wish they had, which was, you know, like stealing and fighting people. But the rest of the time, they were very democratic. My professor called them the first true democracy because they give everybody a right to vote, not just rich people. And the lives these men and women and gender nonconforming folk lived were fascinating ones, that these pirates lived. There's documentation of the plays they would put on to help themselves cope with stress and isolation when they got marooned, to the trials they held for the leadership of captured boats. They would hold trials when they captured a new boat and like freed the sailors, and they would interview all the sailors and find out how bad the working conditions were. And there's documentation that if the sailors were like, actually, our captain is awesome and treats us really well and we trust and like him, they released the guy. They like gave him a bunch of gold and were like, you're free to go. Here's a boat. Go keep being a really nice captain. Thank you. Which is wild. I mean, they would also punish captains who didn't say that. And many of these early pirates were avid naturalists as well, early scientists eager to learn about the plants and animals and life around them. And I tell you this partly because it's fascinating to me, and partly because I hope we can be a little more of an early modern pirate ship, honoring the arts and sciences and giving each person a vote and working for as much fairness as we can imagine. Our prison industrial complex and concentration camps and our failure to get folks out of those so they can be safe from this pandemic make it seem like our country, sadly, is living more into the tradition of the slave ships, with a few people having abundance, some terrible working conditions, and far too many in bondage and treated as disposable. It hurts my heart. And unlike with the movie Titanic, I cannot look away from the people trapped in cages, many of whom are locked up for nonviolent crimes and misdemeanors. Did you know that crossing the border without the proper documentation is a misdemeanor, like a traffic violation? And we've locked these people in concentration camps. It hurts my heart. Just like some of the memes I've been seeing lately, jokes hurt my heart about how humanity is a cancer and this pandemic, the Earth's or Gaia's revenge. Ah, ow, that is terrible theology. It's terrible theology that leads to terrible violence, and it runs counter to everything we as Unitarian Universalists hold to be true. Human beings are not a cancer. No human being is a cancer cell. Every human life has inherent worth and dignity, and no human being is illegal or disposable. Not that all human beings and humanity as a whole don't do bad things, but we are a beautiful piece of a beautiful interconnected system. We are pilgrims together on this blue boat home, even though we must for this time keep ourselves quarantined, keep our physical distance. This historical moment is a moment to pause, a moment to reach within ourselves for compassion and tenderness, to value our interconnected beauty, to remember just how precious our blue boat home is. I love that so many people have been spending more time in nature since this began. And I hope that getting outside is something that you are able to do safely, wearing whatever beautiful homemade mask you have. It makes such a difference to take a metaphorical turn about the deck, like you might do at sea, to smell the air and feel the sun and wind and hear the bird song and the greetings of your neighbors, to hear the sound of running water as it babbles and flows over these gorgeous spring green hills on its way to the ocean. Ours is a beautiful blue boat home, a home worth protecting. This is something I learned as a nature educator. Our first movement towards the environmental actions our world needs, before the petitions and the Twitter storms and the calls to public officials, and even before the protest art and the music and the building of the ship Clearwater, must come time appreciating our natural world. That is where it begins. First, we fall in love, and then we act from that love. Pete Seeger had to take time to love the Hudson River before he could even dream of the Clearwater. He built a cabin next to the river years and years, 20 years before he did that. And in this historic moment, with so much and so many in peril, it is worthwhile, it is essential to breathe deeply, to seek and create beauty, to remember what you love, what is worth fighting for. To do it because nature and humanity are both worth fighting for, and most of all, to do it simply, to do it for our own well-being. You are worth fighting for, beloveds. You are worth protecting. Today, I hope you have the time and ability to stick your head out the door, to maybe begin the process of planting something, or go wander by what others have planted, or maybe just take time to remember beautiful places in nature you have loved, or watch a nature film. Do what you can to feed your heart and spirit. We are in this for the long voyage together, even as we are apart. Please join me once again in singing Blue Boat Home, and I invite you, please do try to sing along. All right.
Far away from the rolling ocean.
So we got to sing a little bit of it this time before the technical difficulties stopped us, and I'm going to keep working on figuring out why it does that. It's very mysterious, all this technology we have. Dear ones, I am so grateful for you and for your life. What you do and who you are matters. You are so much more than your productivity, more than what you contribute to any economy, even to any organization. You matter. Take care of your gentle self. You and me and all of us are pilgrims together on this blue boat home, on this voyage into tomorrow. The future is not set. We can make a difference. And for now, it matters that we breathe together, that we take care of each other and our own gentle selves. For friends, here is a truth. You are enough, just exactly as you are, and you are not alone. And now, Michael, would you sing us that beautiful post?
Light is returning, even though this is the darkest hour. No one can hold back the dawn. Let's keep it burning. Let's keep the light of hope alive. Make safe our journey through the storm. One planet is turning, circling her path around the sun. Earth Mother is calling her children home. Come on home, children, come on home. Come on home, children, come on home. Light is returning, even though this is the darkest hour. No one can hold back the dawn. Let's keep it burning. Let's keep the light of hope alive. Make safe our journey through the storm. One planet is turning, circling her path around the sun. Earth Mother is calling her children home. Come on home, children, come on home. Come on home, singing, come on home. Come on home, singing, come on home. Come on home, oh, come on home.
Thank you so much, Michael,
Thank you.
for the beautiful music you brought to us today, for donating your time to us. I tried to get Michael to take a small fee, and he was like, no, this is my gift to you. So we so appreciate your gift to us today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So you all, we're moving now into our coffee hour time. So thank you all for being on. Please stay on for time. So Pastor Elizabeth, I believe, is going to start putting us into breakout groups. Yes, seek the leeward rail. Thank you all. Stay safe. Thank you so much to our ushers, Matt and Neil, to all who made this possible today. We will try again next week on singing that hymn and on making this service flow a little better. So appreciate you all. Please stay on to chat if you can. Go seek sustenance if you need to. Take care of yourselves, dear ones.
Unmute.
I unmuted everyone. So
Hello,
there's
group.
definitely too many of
Bye,
us to all
Polly.
stay in the room.
Yes. So a quick hello. Hi, G. If if you are from Ligonier or Indiana, I'm putting a chat bar link, and we're going to move to a new Zoom room because this one is not enabled for breakout rooms.
It's not enabled for breakout rooms?
No.
Are you sure? Yeah, no, it is.
Oh,
can
you have
manually do it.
breakout rooms?
Oh, yeah,
I
we've
will
got it.
fix it on your computer then.
Yes. Okay. Elizabeth's
Here's
gonna
where we
walk
do the
over.
magical thing where I am
Magical
suddenly
thing. I'm going to turn off our Chalice cam so that and switch places with Elizabeth, so they're going to be on my phone. See, we're just learning new things. Oh, we're on Chalice cam.
Yeah, mine is.
Sure.
Very more.
Hello, Laura.
I know.
Hi, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
All
right.
How you
Both
guys?
Bills.
I'm in
Two
a whole new
Bills.
place. Now I'm
Yeah.
the UU of Charleston.
Hey.
And I'm going to.
Indiana.
Oh. Breakout rooms. Ah.